Biharī Jaya Gopijana Vallabha Girivaradhari Jaya Jaya Gopijana Vallabha Girivaradhari Jaya Yashodanandana Brajajana Ranjana Yashodanandana Brajajana Ranjana Yamuna Tira Vanachari Yamuna Tira Vanachari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Gopijana Vallabha Girivaradhari Jaya Yashodanandana Brajajana Ranjana Yamuna Tira Vanachari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Gopijana Vallabha Girivaradhari Jaya Yashodanandana Brajajana Ranjana Yamuna Tira Vanachari Jaya Śrī Kṛṣṇa Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Śrī Advaita Gadādhar Śrī Vasudeva Bhakta Vrinda Śrī Advaita Gadādhar Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Jaya Gauranitai, 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 Shri Shri Gauranitai. Jaya Krishna Balaram, Krishna Balaram, Krishna Balaram, Jaya Krishna Balaram. Jaya Radha Shama Sundar, Radha Shama Sundar Radhe. Jaya Jaya Prabhupada, 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 Jaya Jaya Prabhupada. Nitai Gaur Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Nitai Gaur Hari Bol. Jayam Vishnupad Paramahansa Parivacharya Ashtotra Sesam Divine Grace Abhay Chanarvinda Bhakti Vedanta Swami Śrīla Prabhupada Ki Jai अनंत कोटि वैष्णव वृंद की जय। ग्रंथराज श्रीमद् भागवतम की जय। ओम नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय। ओम नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय। ओम नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय। नारायणं नमस्कृत्यं नरं चैव नरोत्तमं देवीं सरस्वतीं व्यासं ततो जयमुदीरयेत्। नष्टप्रायस्वभद्रेषु नित्यं भागवत सेवया भगवती उत्तम श्लोके भक्तिर्भवति नैष्टिकी। Hare Krishna. So welcome everyone for today's Bhagavatam class. So thank you Prabhuji for giving opportunity. So we are already reading 10th canto of Srimad Bhagavatam. So that's the best way to prepare ourselves for Janmashtami. So today we are beginning a new chapter, chapter 46, Uddhava visits Vrindavan. So first we'll read the summary. Okay. So let us read the summary first. This chapter describes how Śrī Kṛṣṇa sent Uddhava to Vraja to relieve the distress of Nanda, Yashoda and the young gopis. One day, Lord Kṛṣṇa asked his intimate friend Uddhava to take news of him to Vraja and thus relieve his parents and the gopis of their misery caused by the separation from him. His parents, riding on a chariot, Uddhava reached Vraja at sunset. He saw the cows returning home to the cowherd villages and calves jumping here and there as their mothers followed slowly behind, weighed down by their heavy milking bags. The cowherd men and women were chanting the glories of Krishna and Balaram, and the village was attractively decorated with burning incense and rows of lamps. All this presented a scene of exceptional transcendental beauty. Nanda Mahārāja welcomed Uddhava warmly into his home. The cowherd king then worshipped him as non-different from Lord Vasudeva, fed him nicely, seated him comfortably upon a bed, and then inquired from him about the welfare of Vasudeva and his sons Kṛṣṇa and Balaram. Nanda asked, "Does Kṛṣṇa still remember his friends, the village of Gokul and Govardhan hill? He protected us from a forest fire, wind and rain, and many other disasters. By remembering his pastimes again and again, we are relieved of all karmic entanglement, and when we see the places marked by his lotus feet, our minds become fully absorbed in thoughts of him. Garg Muni told me that Kṛṣṇa and Balaram have both descended directly from the spiritual world. Just see how they have so easily dispatched Kamsa, the wrestlers, the elephant Kolyapida, and many other demons." As Nanda remembered Kṛṣṇa's pastimes, his throat choked up with tears and he could not speak further. Meanwhile, as Mother Yashoda heard her husband speak of Kṛṣṇa, the intense love she felt for her son caused a flood of milk to pour from her breast and a torrent of tears from her eyes. Seeing the super excellent affection Nanda and Yashoda had for Śrī Kṛṣṇa, Uddhava commented, "You are indeed most glorious. One who has attained pure love for supreme absolute truth in his human-like form has nothing further to accomplish. Kṛṣṇa and Balaram are present in the hearts of all living beings, just as fire lies dormant within the wood. These two lords see all equally, having no particular friends or enemies. Free from egoism and possessiveness, they have no father, mother, wife or children. They are never subject to birth and they have no material body. Only to enjoy spiritual happiness and deliver their saintly devotees do they appear by their own sweet will among various species of life, both high and low. Lord Kṛṣṇa is not merely the son of you, O Nanda and Yashoda, but the son of all persons as well as their mother and father. In fact, he is everyone's dearest relation, inasmuch as nothing that is seen or heard in the past, present or future among the moving and non-moving is independent of him." Nanda Mahārāja and Uddhava passed the night talking about Kṛṣṇa in this way. Then the cowherd women performed their morning worship and began churning butter, singing the glories of Śrī Kṛṣṇa as they busily pulled the churning ropes. The sounds of churning and singing reverberated into the sky, cleansing the world of all inauspiciousness. When the sun rose, the gopis saw Uddhava's chariot at the edge of the cowherd village, and they thought that Akrura might have returned. But just then Uddhava finished his morning duties and presented himself before them. Om Ajnana Timirandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurmlitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Sthapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kada Mahyam Dadati Swapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yuta Padakamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavamsha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunathanvitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadhutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakhan Vitamsha He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dīnabandhu Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radhakanta Namastute Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Vancha Kalpatarubhyasya Kripa Sindhu Vevacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Namo Vishnu Padaya कृष्ण पृष्ठाय भूतले श्रीमते भक्तिवेदांत स्वामी निति नामिने नमस्ते सरस्वती देवे गौरवाणी प्रचारिणे निर्विशेष शून्यवादी पाश्चात्य देश तारिणे जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर श्रीवासादि गौरभक्तवृंद हरे कृष्णा कृष्ण कृष्ण हरे 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 राम 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 हरे हरे। Hare Krishna. So welcome everyone. So we just read the summary. Okay, we'll read text 1 also and then we'll start the class. śrī-śuka vāca vṛṣṇīnāṁ pravaro mantrī kṛṣṇasya dayitaḥ sakhā śiṣyo bṛhaspate sākṣād uddhavo buddhi-sattamaḥ śrī-śuka vṛṣṇīnāṁ pravaro mantrī kṛṣṇasya dayitaḥ sakhā śiṣyo bṛhaspate sākṣād uddhavo buddhi-sattamaḥ śrī-śuka vṛṣṇīnāṁ pravaro mantrī kṛṣṇasya dayitaḥ sakhā śiṣyo bṛhaspate sākṣād uddhavo buddhi-sattamaḥ। śrī-śuka vṛṣṇīnāṁ pravaro mantrī kṛṣṇasya dayitaḥ sakhā śiṣyo bṛhaspate sākṣād uddhavo buddhi-sattamaḥ। śrī-śuka sakhā mantrī kṛṣṇasya dayitaḥ sakhā sākṣāt buddhi-sattamaḥ। Matajis. śrī-śuka vṛṣṇīnāṁ pravaro mantrī kṛṣṇasya dayitaḥ sakhā śiṣyo bṛhaspate sākṣāt uddhavo buddhi-sattamaḥ। śrī-śuka. Okay, please continue. śrī-śuka vṛṣṇīnāṁ pravaro mantrī kṛṣṇasya dayitaḥ sakhā śiṣyo bṛhaspate sākṣāt uddhava buddhi-sattamaḥ। śrī-śuka Śukadeva Gosvāmī said, Vṛṣṇīnāṁ, of the Vṛṣṇis, pravaraḥ, the best, mantrī, advisor, kṛṣṇasya, of Kṛṣṇa, dayitaḥ, beloved, sakhā, friend, śiṣyaḥ, disciple, bṛhaspateh, of Bṛhaspati, the spiritual master of the demigods, sākṣāt, directly, uddhavaḥ, Uddhava, buddhi, having intelligence, sat-tamaḥ, of the highest quality, Translation. Śukadeva Gosvāmī said, the supremely intelligent Uddhava was the best counselor of the Vṛṣṇi dynasty, a beloved friend of Lord Kṛṣṇa, and a direct disciple of Bṛhaspati. Purport. The Acharyas give various reasons why Lord Kṛṣṇa sent Uddhava to Vrindavan. The Lord had promised the residents of Vrindavan, Ayasye, I shall return. Bhagavatam 10:39-35. Also in the previous chapter, Lord Kṛṣṇa promised Nanda Mahārāja, Drashtum ishyamaha, we will come back to see you and Mother Yashoda. 10:45-23. At the same time, the Lord could not break his promise to Śrī Vasudeva and Mother Devaki to finally spend some time with them after they had suffered for so many years. Therefore, the Lord decided to send his intimate representative to Vrindavan in his place. The question may be asked, why did Kṛṣṇa not invite Nanda and Yashoda to visit him in Mathura? According to Śrīla Jiva Gosvāmī, for the Lord to have exchanged loving feelings with Nanda and Yashoda in the same place and at the same time that he was exchanging them with Vasudeva and Devaki would have created an awkward situation in the Lord's pastimes. Thus Kṛṣṇa did not invite Nanda and Yashoda to stay with him in Mathura. The residents of Vrindavan had their own way of understanding Kṛṣṇa, and their feelings could not have been appropriately expressed on a regular basis in the kingly atmosphere of Mathura. Sri Uddhava is described in this verse as buddhi-sattamaḥ, the most intelligent, and thus he could expertly pacify the residents of Vrindavan, who were feeling such intense separation from Lord Kṛṣṇa. Then upon his return to Mathura, Uddhava would describe to all the members of Vṛṣṇi dynasty the extraordinarily pure love he had seen in Vrindavan. Indeed, the love the cowherd men and gopis felt for Kṛṣṇa was far beyond anything the Lord's other devotees had ever experienced. And by hearing about that love, all the Lord's devotees would increase their faith and devotion. As stated in the third canto by the Lord himself, Nodhava anvapi man nyunaha. Uddhava is not even slightly different from me. Resembling Kṛṣṇa so much, Uddhava was a perfect person to carry out Lord's mission in Vrindavan. In fact, Sri Harivansha states that Uddhava is the son of Vasudeva's brother, Devabhaga. Uddhavo Devabhagasya Mahabhaga Suto Bhavat. In other words, he is a cousin brother of Śrī Kṛṣṇa. Hare Krishna. So, this is the first verse of the new chapter. Uddhava visits Vrindavan. So all of us, we know that this is a very important pastime in Krishna's Leela. How Krishna sent Uddhava to Vrindavan and he carried the message of Krishna. He tried to pacify Nanda Mahārāja, Yashoda, all the gopis. But what happened? What was the end result? Actually, it was Uddhava who actually learned the highest form of loving Krishna from the gopis. Result was quite opposite. Uddhava thought that he would pacify the gopis, but actually he was educated or he was counseled by the gopis. He thought he will give counseling to the gopis. But what happened? He himself was counseled by the gopis. So now, in this first verse, so Krishna is calling Uddhava. He chose Uddhava to go to Vraja. So let us discuss why Uddhava was singled out. Why not anyone else? There are so many devotees of the Lord in Mathura. But why he chose Uddhava? So various reasons are given in this verse. The first reason is vṛṣṇīnāṁ pravaro mantrī. And that he was very expert, the best mantrī. Mantrī means advisor. So mantrī means one who gives good advice to the king. He is called mantrī. So since Uddhava was the best mantrī or the best advisor, so he could give good advice to the gopis. And not only that, because Uddhava was so much respected within the Yadu dynasty. So what was Krishna's, one of the objectives, see Krishna had 3 objectives, we can say, of sending Uddhava to Vraja. Externally, okay, he wanted Uddhava to carry his message to pacify the gopis. But more than that, Krishna wanted Uddhava to practically see that how the love of the Brajvasis, the gopis, Nanda Mahārāja, Yashoda, is the highest in this entire existence. Even Uddhava's love cannot compare to the love of the Brajvasis. And the third thing Krishna wanted, that Uddhava should come back to Mathura and glorify the love of the gopis in Mathura. He wanted him to preach the glory of the love of Vrindavan. So obviously, he had to send someone who was very great. Because once he came back from Vrindavan, so because Uddhava was so respected, nobody questioned him. Everyone accepted whatever Uddhava said. So can you relate now why Krishna chose Uddhava? Because he was a very expert mantrī. He was very learned. And the second reason is kṛṣṇasya dayitaḥ sakhā. Hare Krishna Maharaj. So kṛṣṇasya dayitaḥ sakhā. So he was very dear to Krishna. Dayita. So this word dayita means beloved, very close. Hare Krishna. So Uddhava was not only a simple ordinary friend of Krishna. There can be so many friends of Krishna, but Uddhava was dayita, very, very close friend of Krishna. So when you want to send some confidential message, or you want to send someone on a very confidential mission, now whom would you like to choose? Someone who is very trustworthy, someone who is very close to your heart. That person you can trust. Of course, in today's world, it's difficult to trust anyone, right? But still we look for someone who is very close to us. So in this case, Krishna also, he thought that who is the most trustworthy among all my friends in Mathura, among all the Yadus. And then he chose Uddhava because he was very dear to him, very close to his heart. So first reason was that he was an expert mantrī, expert advisor, very reputed among the Yadus. Everyone accepted him as very great. Second, he was very close to Krishna's heart, very dear, like intimate friend. Like the different categories of Krishna's friends. There are some very close friends, like they're called Priya Narma Sakhas. Like in Vrindavan we have Subal, Shridham. They are very, very close to Krishna. So similarly, in Mathura and Dwarka, although Krishna has so many friends and relatives, but Uddhava is the dearest and the closest to Krishna. And you know what? Uddhava is also cousin brother of Krishna. It is mentioned in the purport that Uddhava was the son of, anyone remembers the name? Devabhaga, good. Devabhaga. So Devabhaga was the brother of Vasudeva. Right? So since Uddhava was the son of Krishna's uncle, so he was his cousin brother. So Uddhava was very dear friend of Krishna and he was also his cousin brother. So normally we trust our relatives more, right? So he was like double, 2 in 1, relative also and friend also. And the third line, it is said, in the third line, śiṣyo Bṛhaspate sākṣād. He was not an ordinary person, he was disciple of Bṛhaspati. You know who is Bṛhaspati, right? He is the guru, the spiritual master of all the demigods. The planet Jupiter that we see, that is considered to be the residence of Bṛhaspati. Right? Such a big planet, we can imagine, Bṛhaspati. So Bṛhaspati is not an ordinary person, he is one of the most learned person in the entire universe. He is the guru of all the demigods. So Uddhava is a direct disciple, sākṣād. Not indirect disciple, okay, disciple of disciple, no. Direct disciple of Bṛhaspati. Just like we honor Srila Prabhupada's direct disciples. So you say direct disciple of Prabhupada. So like that, it is a direct disciple of Bṛhaspati, not an ordinary person. And the fourth reason Krishna is given, Śukadeva Gosvāmī is saying, uddhavo buddhi-sattamaḥ. And he was very, very intelligent. His buddhi was of the highest quality, sat-tamaḥ. Because for such a mission, to pacify the gopis, we need someone who is very, very intelligent. Ordinary person cannot do this great task. Because the gopis are not ordinary people, they are most learned. So to counsel them, we need, of course, someone who is very extraordinarily intelligent, buddhiman. So these are the reasons given in this verse that why Krishna chose Uddhava. Shall I revise once again? Okay, let's do a quick revision. First, vṛṣṇīnāṁ pravaro mune, that he was very, very expert mantrī, counselor, advisor. And he was very respected among the Vṛṣṇis. So Krishna wanted that when Uddhava would come back to Mathura and then he would speak the glories of Vraja to everyone, it will be very easy for people to accept him. Because he was already accepted as a leader, as a very respected person, as an expert mantrī among all the yadus. Second, kṛṣṇasya dayitaḥ sakhā. He was very close to Krishna's heart and he was his own brother. Third, śiṣyo Bṛhaspate sākṣād. He was direct disciple of Bṛhaspati. And uddhavo buddhi-sattamaḥ. He was very, very intelligent. The most intelligent, and thus he could expertly pacify the residents of Vrindavan who were feeling such intense separation from Lord Kṛṣṇa. So now a question may be asked that why Kṛṣṇa is sending Uddhava? Why Kṛṣṇa is not personally going to Vrindavan? Or why Kṛṣṇa is not calling them? Now how far is Vrindavan and Mathura? Very close. It's not that Vrindavan and Mathura was 1,000 miles apart. No, hardly 20-30 kilometers. Or let's say Nandagaon to Mathura, 40-50 kilometers. So why couldn't Kṛṣṇa call them to Vrindavan? This question comes to mind or not? Right? Why Kṛṣṇa has to send Uddhava? And why Kṛṣṇa has to keep his dear devotees in Vrindavan under so much pain, so much suffering? Because later we'll see that when Uddhava talks to Nanda Mahārāja, Yashoda, they're in so much of pain, in agony, in separation from Kṛṣṇa. There are some acharyas who describe that how after Kṛṣṇa left Vrindavan, nobody even cooked anything, because when Kṛṣṇa was not there, whom would they cook for? And they were completely emaciated. So much descriptions are given that how, Radharani and the gopis, what to talk of their separation from Kṛṣṇa. All the time crying. But the only reason, what was the reason why the Vrindavan Vasis, they didn't die out of separation from Kṛṣṇa? They loved Kṛṣṇa so much, right? So when Kṛṣṇa left them, naturally they should have died. Yes or no? They loved Kṛṣṇa so much. Kṛṣṇa was their life. How could they live without Kṛṣṇa? The answer is given by the acharyas that because Kṛṣṇa promised that he will come back to Vraja. And the Brajavasis, they loved Kṛṣṇa so much that they thought that if Kṛṣṇa comes back to Vraja and if he sees that we all are dead, then how sad Kṛṣṇa will become. So their love for Kṛṣṇa is so great that they don't want to see Kṛṣṇa becoming sad. You understand this point? The only reason the devotees of Vrindavan, Nanda Mahārāja, Yashoda, the gopis, Srimati Radharani, they, with great difficulty, they continued to live in separation from Kṛṣṇa was only because of one reason. Because they had faith that Kṛṣṇa would return back one day, because Kṛṣṇa had promised that he will come back. And they didn't want to cause pain to Kṛṣṇa Imagine if Krishna would have come back to Vraja and there were no devotees in Vraja. How much pain Krishna would be in. So therefore the Vrajavasis somehow they sustained their life. I heard a nice analogy once that imagine there is fire around the cage, a bird is there inside the cage and there's fire all around. So naturally the bird would like to go out of the prison, yes or no? So similarly the bodies of the gopis are compared to a cage, right? Which is on fire because of separation from Krishna. Now it's very easy for their soul to go out of this cage, for the bird to fly out. But the bird is not able to fly out because the door of the cage is locked. And what is that lock? The lock is the promise of Krishna that I will come back. So because of the promise of Krishna that I will come back, the devotees of Vraja, they are not able to give up their life. So there's so much in separation. And Krishna in Mathura is also thinking about them. He is also in separation. He is also feeling the pain. But Krishna is unable to go to Vrindavan. Why? Because after so many years, he just came to Mathura. Imagine Devaki and Vasudeva situation. Right after birth of Krishna, Krishna was taken to Gokul. For about 11 years, right? 10 years, 8 months. That was the approximate age when Krishna came to Mathura and killed Kamsa. So imagine for around 11 years, Vasudeva and Devaki, they never saw Krishna. They were hearing all the wonderful pastimes of Krishna, but they never had any exchange with Krishna. They never had that parental exchange with Krishna. Vatsalya Bhav. So they were in so much of pain and suffering. And now Krishna came back after so many years. And imagine if Krishna would have said, I want to go to Vrindavan, what would have been condition of Devaki and Vasudeva? So Krishna didn't want to cause more suffering to Vasudeva and Devaki. He thought, no, I should stay now with Vasudeva and Devaki and pacify them. That is also one reason why Krishna didn't go to Vrindavan. So one may ask the question, okay, Krishna couldn't go, that's fine. But Krishna could have easily called the Vrajavasis to Vrindavan, to Mathura. What is the problem? He could have easily called Nanda Mahārāja, Yashoda, all his friends, all the gopis who come to Mathura. But why Krishna didn't call? So the reason given is because the mood of Vrindavan and Mathura are different. So Krishna knew that the devotees of Vrindavan would never be happy by coming to Mathura. Because in Mathura we have Aishwarya Bhav, where everyone sees Krishna like a king. But in Vrindavan, it's purely Madhurya Bhav, sweetness, where everyone considers Krishna to be a cowherd boy. And he knew that the mood of Vasudeva and Devaki was different. And the mood of Nanda Mahārāja and Yashoda is different. So calling both of them at one place would be very awkward. Right? So imagine, having two mothers, two fathers, little awkward situation. And having that too because they had different mood. Suppose they had same mood, no problem. But Yashoda and Nanda Maharaj, they have a different mood. A different way in which they relate to Krishna. Right? Mother Yashoda, she sometimes even binds Krishna, she chastises Krishna. But Devaki and Vasudeva, although Krishna is their son, but still they treat him like God. In a very reverential way, out of lot of respect. So therefore, Krishna didn't want to create an awkward situation. He didn't call them to Mathura because he knew that the Vrindavan Vasis would never be happy in Mathura. In fact, Nanda, he came for some time with the cowherd boys to Mathura, but Krishna sent them back. No, go back to Vrindavan. You will not be happy in this city of Mathura. And the gopis never came to Mathura. It is said that Srimati Radharani never leaves Krishna. Actually, Krishna also never leaves Vrindavan. But Radharani, even externally, she never left Vrindavan. Always in Vrindavan. Vrindavaneshwari. Therefore, she is the actual queen of Vrindavan. So, therefore, Krishna didn't call them to Mathura because Krishna knew that the Vrajavasis would not be happy by coming to Mathura. So that is one reason why Krishna didn't call them to Mathura and why Krishna didn't go to Vrindavan. So now what option Krishna had? Now he could not go to Vrindavan. Now he could not call them to Mathura. So the only other option Krishna had was to send someone to at least pacify the residents of Vrindavan. At least they will feel little happy. Okay, at least Krishna sent someone to pacify us. At least they will feel happy, or at least Krishna remembers us. It's not that Krishna has completely forgotten us. So with this mood, Krishna thought, okay, let me at least send a messenger, a representative. Like today also, these days, suppose some great person is invited to some function, and if he is unable to come, he sends his representative. Like recently, you must have heard the news. Just to quote one example, the president of China is not coming to India for the G20 meeting. So he's sending another representative of his. Okay, you go on my behalf. Similarly, we can just take a material example. So Krishna himself is unable to come to Vrindavan, but he's sending his close. He's not sending some ordinary representative. No. He's sending someone very close to him. The number 2, like very close to him. So he sent Uddhava, who was very close to him. And one more reason, Uddhava looked very similar to Krishna also. Not only was dear to Krishna, he was Krishna's brother. He was very expert. He was a great mantrī, counselor. He was a disciple of Bṛhaspati. And also, he looked very similar to Krishna. The appearance of Uddhava was very close to Krishna. So Krishna thought that by looking at him, maybe the gopis may feel, little pacified. Okay, they'll have my darshan. Something like that Krishna thought. So these are the various reasons we can talk about that why Krishna chose Uddhava. And of course, a very beautiful pastime we'll be reading in the next few weeks, that how first Uddhava, he reaches Vrindavan in the evening time. And he has beautiful vision of Vrindavan, how the cows are running and the milking is going on, a lot of festivity. So sometimes, this question may come that we hear that Vraja was very sad when Krishna left, but here we see the description that it's looking like a very happy and joyous mood. So how do we resolve this contradiction? So the Acharyas explain, Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur explains that because Uddhava was going for the first time to Vrindavan, now Krishna didn't want to show him the sad face of Vrindavan. Krishna wanted him to see the happy mood of Vrindavan. So temporarily, Yogamaya created that scene where Uddhava could see the happy mood of Vrindavan in the evening time, just like the time when Krishna was there. So the cows are running and cowherd boys are milking and people are singing bhajans, and it's a joyous mood because Krishna wanted him to see the actual opulence of Vrindavan. So therefore, when Uddhava reaches Vrindavan in the evening, he sees very beautiful sight of Vrindavan, and then he goes to Nanda Mahārāja and Yashoda, and there's a nice conversation between Nanda Mahārāja and Uddhava. So we'll read and hear all about this. And the next day, Uddhava meets whom? The gopis. And then ultimately he meets Srimati Radharani. And the next chapter therefore is the Song of the Bee, Brahmara Geet. Is one of the most deep chapters in the entire 10th canto. Very, very deep. Brahmara Geet, the Song of the Bee. Because when Uddhava saw Srimati Radharani, Radharani was talking with a bumblebee. And the way Radharani talks to that bumblebee, it reveals the highest form of love of Srimati Radharani, called Mahabhav Roop. It's a very, very deep topic, and I'm sure when we'll discuss this chapter, so expert devotees can speak about this topic of Brahmara Geet. And it is said that Chaitanya Mahaprabhu had the same mood which Srimati Radharani had during this Brahmara Geet pastime. When Uddhava came to visit Vrindavan, the mood that Srimati Radharani had, so Chaitanya Mahaprabhu carried the same mood, because the highest mood of separation from Krishna, Vipralambha Bhav, that Radharani had, during this pastime when he was speaking to a bumblebee. And Radharani spoke like a, very, common man cannot understand the statements of Srimati Radharani. She is sometimes praising Krishna and she sometimes, saying abusive words for Krishna. Imagine, she is criticizing Krishna. She told, what kind of cheater Krishna is. He cheated King Vali, Vali and Sugriv. So when Lord Ram, we know that he killed Vali when he hid himself, not like a Kshatriya. So Radharani is saying, what kind of brave person he is. He's a cheater. He killed Vali like a coward person. And then then Radharani also says that he's so attached to his wife in the form of Lord Ram. When Shurpanrekha came, he could have accepted her, but he was so attached to his wife that he cut off the nose of Shurpanrekha. So in this way, this is the highest form of love. We can't understand. In this highest form of love, Radharani is actually glorifying Krishna, but externally it may seem that she is criticizing Krishna. And similar pastime happened in Mahaprabhu's Leela when Mahaprabhu was in Nadia, just before taking sannyas. Once he was sitting and chanting the name of gopis, Gopi, Gopi, Radhe, Radhe, Lalita, Vishakha, like that. And some scholars came, some young scholars, they came, said, what, Nimai Pandit, what happened to you? You were such a great Pandit. And in the Shastras, where it is said we should chant Gopi, Gopi, we should chant the name of Krishna, Vishnu, then you will get piety. And on hearing that, Nimai became extremely angry. He took up a stick and started chasing them. He said, you rascals, what you are saying? This Krishna is such a cheat. The same statements like Radharani said. So Mahaprabhu also told the same thing. That this Krishna, he killed Vali when he was in a hiding posture, coward person. He's attached to Sita and he cut off the nose of Shurpanrekha. Like that, the same statements Nimai Pandit also spoke. And the friends, the young scholars, they became very much afraid and they started running. But later they had a meeting and they discussed that what happened to this Nimai Pandit? We gave him a good advice, chant the names of Krishna, and he came to beat us. Next time if he does like that, we'll not leave him. We'll beat him up. And when Nimai heard this, when Mahaprabhu heard this, he felt very sad. He said, I have come here to deliver all the people. And now these people are criticizing me. How they'll be delivered? And then Mahaprabhu decided, I must take sannyas. Because at least people respect sannyasi. So just by respecting me, they will also advance in their spiritual life. So we can see the connection of Radharani's mood in Brahmari Geet and Mahaprabhu's mood in Mahaprabhu Leela. So many times he exhibited this mood of Srimati Radharani during this Brahmari Geet pastime. And then of course Mahaprabhu took sannyas, and we all know that his final days in Jagannath Puri, he relished these topics of Srimati Radharani's separation from Krishna and all these high topics. So Mahaprabhu should relish, and who were his close confidential devotees with him? He had Ramananda Rai, who is non-different from Vishakha. He had Saru Damodar, who is non-different from Lalita. And there was one more close associate, Paramananda Puri, who is Uddhava himself. So Uddhava came in Mahaprabhu's Leela as Paramananda Puri. Okay, please remember. So Uddhava came in Mahaprabhu's pastime as Paramananda Puri. He was a great sannyasi and he was always absorbed in meditation on Krishna. And Mahaprabhu many times used to also discuss with him confidential topics. So we know that all the devotees of Vrindavan or Krishna's pastimes, they again took birth they appeared with Mahaprabhu in his Leela. So Uddhava also came in Mahaprabhu's pastime in the form of Paramananda Puri. So it's a wonderful topic, the pastime of how Uddhava visits Vrindavan And in the end, we will see that the conclusion of this pastime, Uddhava, he glorifies the greatness of the gopis. And what is the final prayer of Uddhava? We'll end with that. So I'm sure you must have heard this. So what was Uddhava's final prayer before he left Vrindavan? That make me a blade of grass in Vrindavan. We'll just chant that verse. 10th canto, 47th chapter, text number 61. So this is Uddhava's realization, or this is Uddhava's prayer after he visits Vrindavan. What he says? Asa maho charana renu jusham aham syam Vrindavane kimapi gulma lato shidhinam yadustyajam swajanam arya patham chahitva bhejur mukunda padavim shudbhir vimigyam. The gopis of Vrindavan have given up the association of their husbands, sons and other family members who are very difficult to give up, and they have forsaken the path of chastity to take shelter of the lotus feet of Mukunda, Krishna, which one should search for by Vedic knowledge. Oh, let me be fortunate enough to be one of the bushes, creepers or herbs in Vrindavan, because the gopis trample them and bless them with the dust of their lotus feet. So Uddhava is saying, how great are the gopis? They gave up everything for sake of Krishna. I want the dust of their lotus feet on my head. So therefore let me become a bush, one of the bushes, creepers or herbs, Gulmalata in Braja, so that I may be adorned by the dust of the lotus feet of the gopis. Because Uddhava knew that if I directly ask, they will not give their dust. So therefore let me become a blade of grass or a bush in Vrindavan, so that I may get the dust of the lotus feet of the gopis. And where is Uddhava now present? In Vraja? Near Uddhav Kund. Between Uddhav Kund and Kusum Sarovar, it is said that Uddhavji is still residing in the form of a bush. And therefore in Uddhav Kund we see that once when the queens of Dwarka, they came to Vrindavan and they wanted to they were feeling a lot of separation from Krishna after Krishna left this world. So they wanted to hear Srimad Bhagavatam. So they went there and did loud Sankirtan. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare. And when they did loud Sankirtan, so Uddhava manifested before them and he spoke Srimad Bhagavatam to all the queens of Dwarka. This is even before Śukadeva Gosvāmī could speak to Parikshit Maharaj. The first Bhagavatam was actually spoken by Uddhava to all the queens of Dwarka. So therefore it is said that even today, if we do very intense Sankirtan near Uddhav Kund or Kusum Sarovar, we may have darshan of Uddhava there. So, Hare Krishna. So any questions or comments? Yes.
Thank you, that's very nice. I read one sloka on the Lila that Krishna Vanna Jadu Samutta Saja Para Yapurna Saeva Asti Paraha Vrindavanam Parityaja
Padamekam Nagachati.
So Krishna sending Uddhava from Mathura. So there the Krishna is Devaki Nandan.
Yes.
And the Krishna staying in Vrindavan, never goes out of Vrindavan, is Jasmati Nandan. So why this coming into down coming into the mind there, why Krishna has to send Uddhava to pacify the gopis? Already Krishna is there in Vrindavan. Why?
It's a very nice point that actually Yashodanandan Krishna never leaves Vrindavan. So he sent Uddhava, as I said, that externally he sent him Uddhava to pacify the gopis, but actually he wanted Uddhava to actually learn the highest form of devotion from the gopis. And he wanted to glorify the position of the gopis. So when Uddhava saw that what was the position of the gopis, so he came back and told everyone about the glorious position of the gopis. So he wanted to preach the greatness of gopis. He wanted to reveal to the entire world the highest form of love of the gopis. That was the main reason. You're right. Otherwise there was no reason for Krishna to send. Krishna was already there in Vrindavan. But that's why one of the main reasons for this pastime is to glorify the position of the gopis.
Thank you very much.
One of those difficult things to understand.
Yes.
You say
It's one of the difficult things to understand. Yes. Okay, so thank you very much. Śrīmad Bhagavatam ki jai, Śrīla Prabhupada ki jai. Hare Krishna.